In the months following the year 9 CE, the halls of the Palatine Hill echoed with the sounds of a broken man. According to the historian Suetonius, Emperor Augustus Caesar let his hair and beard grow long, wandering his palace in a near-fugue state. He would repeatedly bang his head against the heavy wooden doors and scream into the empty corridors, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." To understand the depth of that grief, you have to look at how the Roman military functioned. A legion's assigned number was its living identity, a sacred designation carried into battle over centuries. Yet after that year, the numerals 17, 18, and 19 vanish from all Roman records. They were permanently retired. This erasure is jarring when you consider the state of the empire at the time. Rome was an unstoppable force. They had already conquered the Mediterranean, Gaul, and parts of Britain, relying on a ruthless clockwork discipline to crush any opposition. 20,000 elite soldiers and civilians evaporated from the map, leaving a void so vast that Rome chose to scrub the units from its official memory rather than acknowledge the loss. To see why the world's greatest superpower chose to forget its own men, we must leave the marble of the capital behind. The answer lies in a fatal miscalculation made deep within the dark, untamed forests of Germania. Leading this expedition was General Publius Quintilius Varus. His mission was to push the borders northward and consolidate Roman rule over the Germanic tribes. He commanded a massive, miles-long procession, navigating heavily forested, unfamiliar terrain. Varus felt entirely secure, largely because of the man riding beside him. Arminius was a local chieftain who had been taken to Rome as a child. He was raised as a Roman citizen and underwent rigorous training as a Roman soldier. Varus trusted him implicitly. Rome assumed that assimilation equated to loyalty. The deception began with a fabricated report. Arminius warned Varus of a local uprising nearby, convincing the general to detour his massive army off the established paths and march directly into the Teutoburg Forest to crush it. This top-down view shows the immediate logistical failure. The Roman military machine was built for open battlefields, where they could form tight, impenetrable shield walls. But in the dense timber of Germania, the massive column was forced to stretch out into a thin, disorganized line spanning several miles, completely unable to form a defensive front. Arminius had scouted the exact terrain required to neutralize the legionnaires. He guided this sprawling line into a narrow, muddy bottleneck, perfectly wedged between a steep, wooded hill and a deep bog. They were entirely pinned. At that precise moment, Arminius slipped away from the Roman vanguard and vanished into the woods. Moments later, the trees erupted. A unified coalition of Germanic tribes poured down from the hillside, launching a coordinated surprise attack on the paralyzed column. Arminius bypassed Roman steel by using the earth itself. He weaponized the geography of his homeland to strip the empire of its greatest tactical advantages before a single spear was even thrown. To compound the geographical disaster, a torrential downpour turned the forest floor into a muddy quagmire. The pouring rain immediately soaked the sinews of the Roman bows, rendering their primary long-range weapon useless. The advanced iron armor that normally made a legionnaire so formidable worked against them. Sinking into the thick mud, it became an exhausting, deadly burden. The Germanic warriors refused to engage in a traditional melee. They exploited the terrain with hit-and-learn tactics, hurling volleys of spears from the safety of the tree line and immediately fading back out of sight. The Roman soldiers did not fall in a single afternoon. As the survivors desperately tried to crawl forward toward a fortified base, they were subjected to a grueling, terrifying 3-day death march, bleeding out mile by muddy mile. By the final hours, the command structure collapsed. Recognizing that escape was mathematically impossible and capture meant a horrific fate, General Varus and his highest-ranking officers chose to fall on their own swords. This 3-day destruction provided a masterclass in asymmetrical combat, proving that a rigid war machine could be entirely dismantled by fluid, unconventional tactics. By the end of the third day, the forest fell silent. The 17th, 18th, and 19th legions were entirely wiped out. Thousands of Roman soldiers were left unburied in the mud of Germania. Then came the ultimate humiliation. The victorious Germanic tribes claimed the ultimate prizes of war, capturing the legion's sacred eagle standards. When the news finally reached the capital, it shattered the long-held assumption of Roman invincibility. This single defeat permanently halted the empire's ambition to push its borders into northern Europe. This map of ancient Europe illustrates the physical legacy of the slaughter. The expanding Roman borders hid an absolute wall. The Rhine River was immediately transformed into a heavily fortified permanent boundary, dividing the empire from the wilderness for the next 400 years. While Rome spent the ensuing centuries enforcing its will across the rest of the known world, Germania remained unconquered and free, secured by a single catastrophic ambush. The most technologically advanced, highly disciplined superpower on Earth simply marched into the trees and was swallowed whole. Today, the Ghost Legions stand as history's ultimate warning against imperial arrogance. If you want to uncover more forgotten historical truths, make sure to hit subscribe.